Very good afternoon, students. Again, as today no one has joined the class through Zooms, it may be due to the network problem or as the reason may be. So, I am recording the lecture for you for the business laws. So, if you are available, you can even join the meeting, and if you are unable to join the meeting, then I will prepare a video lecture for you and you can go through the lecture. So, just I am sharing the PPT. So, as we have already started the Indian Partnership Act 1932. So yesterday we have completed till this till this web PPT, that is challenges after registration, changes allowed for the registration of the firm. So as we have discussed that the there are various changes that can be made or that can be changed after the firm has been constituted. The first thing is the firm name. The firm name can be under the Indian Partnership Act 1932. The name of the firm can be changed as the partner think or when it is required by the consent of all the partners. Secondly, as the principal place for the business, as there is a registered office for the business, and the registered office, if it is on the rented place, so sometime it may be required by the management or by the partners to change that office due to some of the circumstances. So the office of the business can also be changed even after the registration of the firm, but the changes must be conveyed to the registrar of the Partnership Firms Act or to the registrar of the company through a proper channel so that he can make changes in the form that you have already submitted, or he can do the rectification in the name of the changes. Next is opening and closing of the branches. Now the branches of the various business can be opened and closed as required. So, for example, if you are running a business and in under a partnership firm, so your partnership firm want to open a new branches in several areas of the country. So it is possible that you should because as we have already known that in under the Indian Partnership Act 1932, we have already given the consent to the registrar of the Partnership Act, registrar to the registrar that we are having the registered office at such places. Now, due to the expansion of the business, if you want to further expand your business, you can open or you can close the existing branches as you seem fit. Second, address of the any partner. Again, the fourth thing that can be changed after the registration, that is allowed after the change of registration, is the address of the partner. So the address of the partner can be changed anytime because, for example, if the partner changes the address, his or her address, so it must be conveyed to the registrar so that he can make a necessary changes. Next is constitution of firm or dissolution. Now again, you can a partnership firm can constitute a new firm under the partnership under the same partnership act or under the same partnership, or it can dissolve the existing firm under the partnership act. Next is minor partner decision after becoming the major. Now, as we all know that under the Indian Minority Act, it has been already stated that minor can be partner of the firm. He can be admitted as a partner, but the admission is only for the profit and not for the losses. So in such cases, when the partners become major, so it is the responsibility of the other partners to pass a constitution or to pass a resolution in the firm to make that partner as a full-fledged partner after his majority, or it deems fits. Sometime if no decision has been taken, then after 3 months of the majority of the age of the partner, it has been on it is always assumed that the partner has become the major, and all the that is liabilities the other partners are bearing all as same liabilities should the minor will bear after he becomes a major. So these are the following changes which can be made under the which can be made after the registration of partnership firm under the Partnership Act 1932, that is Indian Partnership Act 1932. Next is, what if partnership firm is not registered? Now it has already been clear in the Partnership Act 1932 that agreement between partners can be verbally, or it can be already orally, or it can be written, and it can be registered or unregistered. But if the firm is not registered, then there are some consequences. First, that partner cannot the partner cannot file a suit against the firm of the other partners under section 69(1). It means that partner is not partners, if the firm is not registered, then partners cannot file a suit against the firm or the other partners. If sometime it may be happen that there may be some differences between the thinking of the partners, and or some partners has become some fraud or had become some had made some fraud in the company. In such cases only the partners can file the suit if the firm is registered under section 69(1). And if the firm is not registered, then the suit cannot be filed under the section 69(1). Second, firm can't file suit against the partners under section 69(2). Section 69 subsection 2. It means that, for example, a partner has done some misconduct in the firm, and the other partners or the firm itself want to file a suit against their partners. So under the section 69(2), if the firm is not registered, it is not possible for the firm to file a suit against the partners under section 69(2) of the Indian Partnership Act 1932. Next, partner can't claim set off under section 69(3). For example, a some partner let's take an example that there are four partners in the company, and one partner want to get retired after some time. So in that case, a partner can't claim set off under 69 section 69(3) because the firm is not registered. The set off can only be calculated if the firm is registered, and in the case of unregistered firm, it is not possible to get set off under section 69 and 3. Now moving to the next slide. Now there are the various rights that has been given to the partners under the Indian Partnership Act 1932. So the rights that are given, first is the right to take part in the business. That is, the each and every partner of the registered partnership firm can take part actively in the business as an active partner. Second, right to be consulted. Now the partner in the partnership firm, all the partners will consult with each other while taking the major business decisions, because each and every partner has right to consult with the another partners regarding the business decisions. Next, right to have access to the books. Now it is again another right given to the partners under the Partnership Act 1932, that they can access the books of the business firm, and they can go through the accounts, they can check the accounts, and they can do all the things. They can have the full access to the accounts of the book to see that how the partnership firm is financially performing. Next, to share the profit. Now it depends that, although it has been stated in the Partnership Act that the partners will share the profit and losses, it is according to the pre-decided ratio. And sometimes it happens that in the Partnership Act, it is not decided that in what ratio the profit is to be distributed. In such cases, the profit will be distributed equally among the partners as under the section, or as under the Indian Partnership Act 1932. Next is interest on capital if agreed. So as we know that while starting the partnership firm, each of the partner will bought in the share of his capital in the bought the capital in the part in the form of its share in the partnership firm. So if in such, as we all know, the under the business law, a company or a firm is a different legal entity. So there is a corporate veil between the partner and the, that is, your partnership firm. So as the partner has invested the capital in the business in the business firm, so he partnership firm, so he is like he can claim the interest on capital if it has been already agreed under the partnership agreement. If it is not agreed there, then it is not possible. Next, right to interest on loan to the firm. And sometimes it happens that some of the partners have given the loan to the business firm or to the partnership firm. For example, there are 5 partners and 2 partners has given the loan to the business and to the partnership firm as required by the firm. So in that case, interest on loan to the firm, the partner is right to get the interest on loan that he has provided to the firm in addition to its capital. Next, right to indemnity. Now, indemnity means to indemnify the losses or to compensation. For example, if there is any, all the partners has a right to get or to get indemnified or to get the share in the firm in the terms of money. So for their services rendered in the partnership firm. So all the partners have a right to get compensation from the partnership business firm. It has been already decided under the Indian Partnership Act 1932. Next is right to use the firm property. Now, each and every partner of the business partnership firm has the right to use the property of the business firm. Next, to be consulted on the admission of new partners. For example, there are 5 partners in the business firm, and now 6th partner is to be joined in the firm. So, the consultation should be made with all the partners while admitting a new partner, because with the, if only the partner is admitted in the company if only and only all the partners agreed for that, for the same. If all partners does not agree for the same, then in the partnership firm a new partners cannot be admitted. So it is necessary for the uh, while admitting a new partner. Second, right to retire. Now, any partner in the partnership firm, any partner in the partnership firm can retire, or after a specified period of time, or as it seems to fit. For example, if there are 5 partners and one partner want to retire due to some of the circumstances, so he has right to retire, although he must uh, give the consent to the partnership firm in return, and to the registrar also, so that the necessary changes in the partnership firm can be made. Next is right to carry on competing business after retirement. Now, even now the partnership firm, if the partners get retired from the business, so now he can start a new business. On the contrary, as a competitor he can also start. It is the right, but it should be only after the retirement. Before the retirement, or while the person is in the firm, he cannot start the same business. So if he want to start the same business, first he should get retired from the partnership firm, and then he can carry out a new business. Next, to share subsequent profits. Now again, if there are some of the profits left with the company, so if there are some profit, then again the profit should be shared among the partners. Next, not to be expelled. No partners can be expelled from the partnership firm unless and until it has been done by the intervention of the court, or some misconduct has been done by the partner. So the partner has right not to be expelled. And last is right to remuneration. Again, the remuneration is the something in return for the services rendered by the partner to his company. So these are the various rights that are given to the partners under the Partnership Act 1932, so that a business can be carried out. Next, next is duties of the partners. So the next duties of the partners are, first duty of the partner is of good faith. Now, first is that a good faith means that the person should work in the good faith of the another, so that it is a duty that the other person should not be getted affected by the should not be getted affected by the other things. So next is the of greatest common advantage. Next, now the duty of the partner is for the greatest common advantage of the firm, so that firm must have a the partner must work for the greatest common advantage of the firm. He should not work for its own advantage. So it is the duty of the partner under the partnership firm to work for the whole firm as a whole, to the firm as a whole. Next, to render the true accounts. Now it is again the duty of the partners to discuss the true accounts. It means that you should not do any forgery in the account, or do any misconduct, or you should not hide anything in the account. So it is the duty of the partners to render, or to discuss, or to show the true accounts to the other partners, as well as to the authorities, that there is nothing to be hidden in that account. Next, to give full information. Now next duty is to give the full information to the other partners. So it is the duty of the partners. So it is the duty of the partners that he should give the full information to other partners, as well as to the authorities. Next, to indemnify the losses due to fraud. For example, if the one partner has done a fraud in the partnership firm, now it is the duty of that partner to compensate or to indemnify the losses that has been incurred to the other partners due to the forgery of that particular partner. Next, duty to attend delegately. So the partner should attend all the meetings and all the other person delegately. He should not be harsh. Next, to share the losses. Now we have discussed in the previous lecture that the right is that there are various rights given to the partners in under the partnership act. First is that is right to share the profit. Now, for example, if there is loss in the firm, so that no one will be going to bear the loss. No one want the loss in that firm, but it is a duty under the Indian Partnership Act that if the loss incurs to the firm, then all the partners should have to bear that loss equally. Next, duty to account for the personal profit. Now, no partner can make a personal profit out of the partnership firm. It is again, we have as discussed, it should be towards the common advantages. Okay, so it should not be for the personal profit. Okay. Next, duty to account for the profit of the competing business. Now again, the partners under the partnership firm, the partner should not act in such a way that the competitor will get any benefits out of the behavior of that person. So it is the duty of the partner not to work in such a way. Next, duty to use firm property for firm only, as it has been already decided in under the Companies Act and even the Partnership Act that a firm is a different legal entity. So if something is different legal entity, so the person is different and the partner is different and the firm is different. So the person should not use the firm's property. If there are four partners, three are sleeping and one is active, so the active partner cannot use the firm property for its personal use. So it is duty that firm property should be used for the firm purpose only. Next, to act within authority. Now next, the next duty of the partner is to act within the authority that has been assigned to the person. The the if the person cannot act beyond the authority which has been not assigned to the person, so the person should be act within the authority and he cannot act beyond the authority given to that person. Next, not to transfer his right and interest. Now again, it is duty of the partner under the Indian Partnership Act not to transfer the rights and interest to some third parties or to the other partners. If there are four partners, the firms should, maybe the partners should uh, work for the interest of each other, but he should not transfer the right and interest to the third party, because in the end this will be going to incur, or this will be going to cause the losses to the partnership firm itself only. Now, next, moving to the next slide, that is liability of a firm and partners toward third parties. Now, there are various liabilities of the firm that are toward third parties, which is again defined under the Indian Partnership Act 1932. So, under Section 26, first is that firm is liable for the activities of partner done within actual or employed authorities. Now, again, we will discuss the meaning of actual, that is expressed and implied authority, in next upcoming slides. So the firm is liable for all the activities done by the partner, so if to the third parties. For example, if the firm has made in contract with the third party and in between the company or the firm breaches the contract, so in that case the firm is liable under the Section 26 of Indian Partnership Act 1932 uh, for the activities done by the actual or the employed authority. Next, that is Section 28 and subsection 1 of Indian Partnership Act 1932. The firm, if the firm accepted the liability impliedly, that is liability by holding out, then the firm is liable for it. For example, if impliedly, it means that if firm accepted that this is the liability and the firm has to bear this liability. For example, the company has not paid the tax has not paid the tax to the tax authorities in the proper time. So it is implied that the company has to pay the tax towards its tax liability. So it is implied that if such liability arises, then the firm is liable for it. Next is under the Section 27 of the Indian Partnership Act 1932. If partner made any misappropriation of money, then firm is liable to act in within his authority. For example, a person has made some forgery or misappropriation of funds in the firm, then the partnership can other partners or the firm can sue that particular partner for the misconduct or the forgery or the misappropriation of money done by that person. Next, Authority of partners. Now, as we have already discussed that there are some two type of authorities. First is expressed and another is implied. So under the section 25 of Indian Partnership Act 1932, every partner is liable jointly with all the other partners and also fairly for all acts of the firm done while he is the partner. Fine. So, but the point is to be noted that he is liable only from those acts which are within the authority of the partner. Fine. If some acts are which are not within the authority of the partner and he has done such acts, then the firm cannot be held liable. Only the partners can be liable. All the partners jointly are not liable if some one partner has done the work beyond his authority. So if the firm is only, all the partners are only liable if they are working or they have done the acts within the authority as defined by the Indian Partnership Act 1932. Thus we must know about the two things. First is authority can be of two types. First is expressed and another is implied. Expressed means specifically decided by all the partners that which work is to be done by which partner. Now implied, it means that assumed to be some indirect permission. It means that, if implied means that it is assumed that the, for example, it is assumed that all the partners in the firm will not do any forgery or misappropriation of fund. So it is an implied authority. It is not expressed authority, because if it is expressed means that all partners will decide commonly that what work and how they will perform their duties. Now implied means what are the things or the duties which has been given to the partners under the Indian Partnership Act. It is implied that they have to perform these duties. So it is assumed by the some indirect permission. Next, now further discussion, implied authority. Expressed, as we have already discussed, that express authority means that a commonly decided things by all the partners. Now, implied means, under the implied, we have to study different things. For example, first, condition to be satisfied. The act must be, in case of implied authority under the Indian Partnership Act 1932, the act must be related to the firm. First thing. Second, it is done in usual way, and third, done in the firm's name. So for these three things, conditions must be fulfilled for the any implied authority. Only then it is said to be that the authority is implied. So first is it should be related to firm. Second, it should be used in the done in the usual way. For example, if we have to pay the income tax, we have to pay the GST monthly. So let's take an example of GST. If we have to pay the GST monthly, so it is done in the usual way. Means if we have usually have to pay this money monthly. Next, and done in the firm's name. So these are the conditions to be satisfied. Only then the thing is said to be in the implied order. Now examples. First, the partner can engage the lawyer for the company, can purchase the usual goods. Again, it is implied that if we are running a business, so it is implied that we have to purchase the business, we have to purchase the several goods. Next, to appoint servants, make collection of debtors, sell the goods, settle the accounts, etc. So these are the some example of implied authority in the partnership form, which has been decided by the Indian Partnership Act 1932. Now, if the act is outside the implied authority, then other partners shall not be liable. The partners will be only liable in case of these things. First is conditions. If these conditions are satisfied, and it is for the benefit of the firm. So the the act is outside the employed authority, then the other partner shall not be liable, and only specific partner that has done will be personally liable. So such acts are comes under the section 19 and subsection 2 of Indian Partnership Act 1932. So now in such case, the firm has to submit the dispute for the to the arbitration or to the third party or the arbitrator which has been appointed by the registrar. Second, to open bank account its in own name on the behalf of firm. It is again not allowed under the Indian Partnership Act if it has been done. Second, to compromise or republish the claim of the firms on outsider. So if a person, for example, there was a claim on the firm, and one partner has done a dealing with another that I will make settlement for the claim, so you should give this much benefit to me. So in such case, the implied authorities cannot be implemented. Next is to withdraw such suit. For example, if any there is any lawsuit filed against the company, and a partner cannot make itself, he cannot make a decision itself that he will withdraw such suit, because if you want to withdraw suit against the firm, then the consent of all the partners is necessary. Next, to accept any suits liability against the firm. the partners, even it is not given in the implied authority to accept any suit or liability against the firm due to the act of the partner. Second, to acquire, transfer immovable property for or of the firm. Even the partner is not allowed for such acts. For example, if in the partnership firm a partner uses his car for the personal use, or he sell the car as saying that this is my personal car, so this is not allowed under the Indian Partnership Act, because if the firm is registered, it is a separate legal entity and the partner cannot acquire or transfer the immovable property of the firm. And next is to enter into partnership on the behalf of the firm. And if such things are again done, again it is not come under the implied authority and the partner will be personally liable for that. Next, position of minor at the time, position of minor partner in the firm. Now there are various things which has been already discussed, because as we have said that the minor can be partner. Now the minor is the person who has not attained the age of 18 years under the Indian Minority Act 1930. Now next, now what are the consequences, or what is the position of minor as minor partner in the firm? First thing is when he is minor, and another thing is after attaining the age of majority. First, so if the partner is minor during the age, now as we have discussed that he can't be partner, but he can be admitted for the benefits of the firm, as it has been already decided in the Indian Partnership Act 1932 that a minor can be admitted as a partner in the firm for the profits only or for the benefits only, and he shall not be held liable for the any losses that the firm has to bear. Next, under the section 31 of Indian Partnership Act 1932, he can receive profit and the part of property of the firm while he is minor and he has not attained the age of majority. Next, under section 32, he has right to assess the books and account of books of account. The minor partner can even has a right that he has been given the access to the book of account and he can audit the account if he wants. Next, section 33, he is not personally liable for only his share of profit and property is liable. So he's not personally liable for anything in the firm, but he will only get the profit and the property. Next, under the section 34, he can file suit against for his profit and property, but firm cannot file any suit against them. Now, in this case, if there is a profit in the firm and other partners denied in giving the profit to the minor partner. Now, under section 30, subsection 4 of Indian Partnership Act 1932, he can file a suit against the firm, but if he has done some misconduct, then a firm cannot file a suit against the minor while he is not attained the age of majority. Now, next, when the partner has attained the age of majority, in that case, under section 35, public notice by him or her within 6 months about the decision otherwise assumed to be partner. Now, if the partner has attained the age of 18 years, now under section 35, he must give notice, or the firm is public notice by him or her within 6 months that he want to continue with the firm or he does not want to continue with the firm. If he want to continue with the firm, then he will be now become liable for each and every act of the firm that has been done, but as he has attained the age of majority. Otherwise, if he has not given his or her consent within 6 months, then it is assumed that the person has become the full-fledged partner. Now next, if he accepts, and he want to become a partner, then same position as the other partners. He is personally liable for the acts when he was admitted to the benefits. Now all these things which are essential for the major partners will be applicable to the minor partner after attaining the age of majority, and next share the profit and property of the firm. Next, if he rejects, all the liabilities as a partners will be same till notice date, fine, and will not be further liable for the other liabilities. He can sue the partners for his share of profit and property. Now he can sue the other partners because as he was minor and now he has attained the age of majority, so he can sue the other partners too. Now next, last, and now we are coming to the next topic, that is dissolution of partnership. Means the relationship of partnership will came to end. For example, if the partnership want to end his firm or they want to dissolve the firm, then it is known as a dissolution of partnership firm. Now the dissolution of partnership firm can be for constituting a new firm, For example, if there are three partners, as we have given here, that A and A, B, and C are three partners, so they have dissolved the partnership, and but the partnership between A and B is being continued. So now they can reconstitute the firm with new partner as the new firm as A and B. Fine. So C may be retired, or it may be due to the death of C. So the firms get dissolved, because now there are only left behind with the two partners, and new firm is to be constituted with that remaining partners. Now this is due to the retirement of partner, fine, death of partner, or it may be by the court or by the order of court. And thus the retirement of partner from the firm does not dissolve the firm. The firm continues with the change constitution. The partnership between constitution partners will be unaffected. So in case of death only, the firm is dissolved. So if the one partner is retired, then it is assumed that the firm will continue with the other remaining partners. Now, reconstitution of the firm. Reconstitution means when the firm is reconstituted, it can be in various form. First is admission of the partner. So if in the partnership firm a new partner is admitted, he can be admitted with the consent of all, not liable for any liability before his admission, and he is liable for all the liabilities after his admission only. So first is under section 31(1) of Indian Partnership Act 1932. There are various times when the reconstitution of firm is required. Second, retirement of partner. So when the partner is retired from the firm under the section 32(1) of Indian Partnership Act 1932, he can retire by the consent with all or by the notice. Second, liable for any liability before his retirement, and not liable for liability after his retirement. So these are the rights the partner is having after the retirement. Next, expulsion of the partner under section 33(1). Now expulsion means when the partner is expelled forcefully from the firm. In that case, the partner cannot be expelled even if the majority, but only by the legal suit. So it has been already given in the right under the Indian Partnership Act that the partner cannot be expelled. So it can only be expelled when there is any lawsuit against that partner. Second, majority is allowed if they can prove that the expulsion is in the interest of the firm and done in the good faith of the firm. Only in that case the expulsion is valid if the majority is allowed. Otherwise, it can be only done by the lawsuit, by the legal suit or the lawsuit, and it cannot be done forcefully by the majorities. Next, insolvency of the partner. If some partners become insolvent under the section 34(1) of Indian Partnership Act 1932, by default, the insolvency of any partner result in the dissolution of firm. First thing. Second, the partner may decide otherwise in agreement. Second, thirdly, insolvent partner is not liable for any further liability. So these are the rights available with the insolvent partners. And last is the death of partner under section 42(c) of Indian Partnership Act. By default, the death of any partner result in dissolution of firm, as we have already discussed. So the new firm is to be constituted if the remaining partner want to run their business. Next, secondly, partners may decide otherwise in agreement. And thirdly, heirs of the deceased partner is not liable for any further liability. So if the legal heirs will get the part of profit, and but they will not be held liable for the further liabilities. Now next, that is the dissolution of firm under section 39. The firm can be dissolved under section 39 of Indian Partnership Act. It can be due to various of the things. First is dissolution of firm, that is activity of the firm closed down. Second, dissolution of the partnership, sum of the partnership goes out by death, retirement, etc. So these are the things by which the dissolution can be done willfully. Now, second, dissolution without court intervention. So if we want to dissolve the firm without the intervention of court, that is with the consent of all other partners. First, the consent of all other partners must be there to dissolve the firm under section 40. Second, the contract between partners for the section under section 40 if they want to end the contract. Next, compulsory dissolution. Compulsory dissolution may be done due to the insolvency of partner, or if the business of the firm becomes unlawful at any point of time. Next, dissolution due to contingency under section 42. Now contingency means the thing which can arise anytime or at a fixed period of time. So in that case, the firm can be dissolved without the court intervention, on the expiry of fixed term. Next is completion of advantage. See, death of partner, and last is the insolvency of partner, and the last is dissolution by the notice by all the partners under section 43. Now next is dissolution. Next is the dissolution with the court intervention. First, intensity of partner, first under section 44A. Second, permanent incapacity of partner under section 44B. Misconduct of the partner under section 44C. Persistent breach of agreement under section 44D. Transfer of interest under section 44E, and perpetual losses in business under section 44F. So these are the times when, with the intervention of court, the partnership firm will be become to an end. Next, effect on dissolution. Now, what are the effect of dissolution on the firm? First, after the public notice, the partners are not liable for the any other further liabilities under section 45. Any private property, any private profit under the firm name must be accounted for the firm itself under section 50. Partners can sell off the firm business to pay firm liabilities and can share the surplus under section 46. Now, partners shall keep the authority of the decision for dissolution of the firm under section 47. Losses of realization subject to be adjusted from the past profit of the firm, then firm capital, and if the balance is shared by the solvent partners under section 48. For example, if the firm is closed due to losses, the losses may be set up from the profit of the previous year. If again the firm is not able to fulfill the liabilities or to repay the liabilities, then if the balance, if any, and then from the capital of the partners, and even though if after paying from the capital the losses are there or the third party liabilities are there, then the solvent partners must share the profit or share the losses equally under section 48. And last, payment shall be made as external debt of firm, partners loan, partners capital, surplus shared by all partners in partnership resolution under the section 48. Thank you. So this is a lecture I have recorded for you all. If as no one has joined the class today, so I have recorded this lecture, and now I will share this on the group, so you can study from here. Thank you.